So he lived during a period of fascism, during a period of very tough leaders like the likes of Mussolini and Hitler. So when we say sovereign, we are relating to something that is princely, something that is royal or paramount. So we are saying 5 sovereign fingers. Text the breath. Text the breath, in my opinion, is text is something that people hate, and it makes people's lives unbearable. So in this sense, these 5 sovereign fingers made living very unbearable, make life unbearable. Text the breath, and with breath our related to life. So 5 sovereign fingers made life unbearable during these times. So the war and all these the activities or the actions of these fingers made life unbearable. Text the breath. So text is something that makes our life very unbearable. It puts pressure on whatnot, but yeah, hence this hand made people's life unbearable. Now this double the globe of death and half the country. Basically, we increase the casualties. More people died. We doubled the number of people who are dying, and we halved the country. I will relate again to the background of this poem at the time when he wrote it. Very important. It related to big events that happened in Europe. The likes of the bombing at Hiroshima, and then the separation of Germany into the division of Germany into four locations: the east, the west, and this is just indicating to us again. At the end of this treaty, halved a country. Probably he might be talking about Germany that was divided, and double the globe of death, the bombing of Hiroshima. These are major events that could have impacted all of Europe. And then these 5 kings did a king to death. These 5 kings still refers to the 5 sovereign fingers on the hand. These 5 kings still referring 5 fingers on the hand. 5 sovereign fingers, these 5 kings still on the hand. These 5 kings did a king to death. So this hand killed or destroyed again a kingdom, a country, or a leader. So very important day in my opinion. So in this these are just a bit of notes I've given there, but I'm willing to hear some critics. So stanza 2. The mighty hand leads to a sloping shoulder. The finger joints are crammed with chalk. A goose's squeal has put an end to murder that put an end to talk. Some critical notes there. Now, first 2 stanzas, the poet tries to put forward a message that is this so-called mighty hand leads to a usual or ordinary non-supernatural being's body because of the sloping shoulder, and it might be vulnerable to infections. As we say, joints are crammed with chalk, putting reference to arthritis, and this somehow suggests that this hand belongs to a very old person, since they are most susceptible to diseases. So as I was saying, in these 2 poems, or in these 2 verses, the mighty hand that leads to a sloping shoulder, the finger joints are crammed with chalk. And it is putting emphasis on that this so-called mighty hand that is doubling the globe of death and halving a country. This hand, the almighty hand so-called, is just leading to a sloping shoulder, and the finger joints of this hand are crammed with chalk. So it's indicating how normal this person is, this sovereign finger, this royal person is. So he's just leading to this mighty hand is just leading to an ordinary body, a sloping shoulder, and the finger joints are crammed with chalk just indicates how vulnerable he is also to diseases. So emphasis is just that this person is a normal human being. He is vulnerable to diseases like arthritis. So when you speak in terms of the finger joints are crammed with chalk. Now, a goose's squeal has put an end to murder that puts an end to talk. Now, a goose's squeal is the pen they used to write with. Very important. Before I go to these 2 verses, let me just again give some very important information I believe about the 2 verses. Now, I also suspect a paradox in the first line, a contradictory properties or counterintuitive statement in this first verse here. I will say in the first line, the hand, something that is mighty, something that is very or to a high degree linked to an ordinary shoulder. which is the sloping shoulder. Hence we are saying this hand is great and mighty in the same sentence, but it is linked to an ordinary, not mighty body, the shoulder, the sloping shoulder. So I will say that this is a paradox in the sense that we are saying this is a mighty hand in the same sentence, and then again we are saying this mighty hand is leading to a sloping shoulder. Very unlikely. So we are saying something mighty should lead to a mighty organism or mighty being. So this is very important. It is open for critics, this conclusion or analysis. Now the use of a goose's quill, which is very sharp. Goose's quill is the pen they used to write with. It was the feather of a goose, an animal. If you just do research online, there you will see pictures of a goose's quill. Has put an end to murder. Now, a goose's quill is not the same as the feather they used to write with. Therefore, instead of the feather, which is more flowy, a goose's quill is a sharp object, a very sharp feather belonging to a goose, and it indicates the harshness of pain and brutality. In this opinion, the use of a goose's quill and not a feather also indicates how brutal these decisions they were taking, how painful and harsh these treaties were, and the actions were. Has put a goose's quill has put an end to murder that put an end to talk. This just also indicates again the end of these treaties, that now that the war we have been fighting the war, the leaders have come up and they came to sign, and the use of this goose's quill has now put an end to this war and killing, and it has also put an end to the peace talks we have been having. So now no more peace talks, we have put an end to them. The goose's quill. Now stanza 3. The hand that signed the paper, the hand that signed the treaty bred fever, and famine grew and locust came. Great is the hand that holds dominion over men by a scribbled name. So this is very interesting. Now the resulting impulse of the hand signature action onto the treaty was in situation. So this is basically what is the focus in this section, I would say. So this is now telling us of what are the impacts of the actions this leaders or this leader has taken. So now we are saying, now that the treaty was signed, the hand that signed the treaty bred a fever. It brought a fever, and famine grew and locusts came. Great. Very important in these two verses again. I will just take the two verses again separately. So the poet, I will say again, it's creating an allusion to the plagues of Egypt, the famine and the locusts, the situation that happened in Egypt during the time of Pharaoh. It's creating an illusion and somehow also an image in our minds of what had happened. The famine grew and locusts came, and we had bred the fever. And somehow again, it is also an irony or paradox in my opinion, because this treaty was supposed to make life better for these people, but on the other hand it does the opposite. The hand that signed the treaty now bred a fever. The treaty was supposed to end the suffering and all this caused by the war, the hunger and all this, but on the other hand the treaty bred a fever, and it brought famine, and then locusts came, so it just makes situations worse and unbearable. And then great is the hand that holds dominion over men. Now we see the poet here is taunting the hand sarcastically, and is, so to say, is like praising it, but at the same time it is unnecessary, or is we therefore have to say that he's taunting or just merely mimicking and trying to taunt the hand or the leader. Now great is the hand that holds dominion over men. He says it like he's now praising the king, but he's doing it sarcastically. By a scribbled name. Over men by a scribbled name. So a scribbled name refers to the signature, and by the use of the scribbled name also somehow emphasizes that the leader is careless, and the enormous impact of small things on people. Just because of a small signature, we see how we make things worse, how these things were made worse. The treaty bred a fever, famine grew and locusts came. So small things just again indicating the impact of small things on people, and the use of scribbled name again, it emphasizes that the leader is careless. Good. Now, as I said again, it creates an illusion of the plagues of Egypt, the famine and the locusts. Okay. Now let's move on to stanza 4. Now these 5 kings count the dead, but do not soften. Thy crusted wound no pet the brow. A hand rules pity as a hand rules heaven. Hands have no tears to flow.